Hey, I'm here with Jenna Duncan. She's our Associate Artistic Director and Casting Director. She does all the casting for Olney Theater Center and all for national players. Quite often when you walk into the room, the person you're going to see behind the table is Jenna. So we're here to talk a little bit about what you need to do to be prepared for an audition for national players. We ask for 2 Shakespeare monologues. The reason that we ask for 2 Shakespeare monologues is for all of our 69, now going on 70 years, every year we've traveled with a Shakespeare classic. So we need to know that you can ace Shakespeare. Jenna, you've done some auditions, you've seen some Shakespeare monologues, right? What are some tips or some suggestions that you would give to somebody who is preparing their Shakespeare monologues?
Yeah, so when you're prepping your Shakespeare monologue, the number one thing, I'm surprised I had to say this, is that you have to know what you're saying. You just do. And then be prepared to know it well enough to be able to adjust it. So when we give you some feedback, know it well enough to go back and really take ownership over the material in a way that allows you to do something totally different with it, so we can begin to see your range. Because your command of the text is applicable not only to the Shakespeare that we're doing, but to something like The Crucible and 80 Days. You'll see it this year on tour. We did Alice in Wonderland, which seems like it might not be to the extent of Shakespeare in terms of command of language. You would be wrong. So it helps us learn that amount as well.
I think what we're also looking for, obviously, are people who are engaged physically, and that doesn't mean that they're able to jump off the walls, but it means that they own the text in their bodies and themselves, that they are grounded, that they're making specific choices, that they're making specific choices that are relative to the characters that they're portraying. We are looking for actors who bring their humanity to the roles, that we believe that Shakespeare is a universal and therefore should be universally accessible in 2018. We are not looking for some historical facsimile of what you think Shakespeare ought to be or ought to sound like. And please, no British dialect.
Which also goes to say, when you're picking material, choose something you love. If you don't love Shakespeare, this is probably not the company for you to be participating in. So hopefully if you're picking these monologues, it's something you're really drawn to. It's also a big question of mine in the audition room is what did draw you to that material. So if you are like, I picked it because that was the first thing that showed up when I Googled Shakespeare, this might not be quite the company for you.
We have to dig deeply. You're doing this. This is a job that an experience, a lifestyle, really, that lasts 11 months and maybe more if you want to be a part of the company for a longer period of time. And you can't do that well if you live on the surface of any of this work. And we're going to dig deeply. We're going to, in the rehearsal room, in the audition room, we're going to dig deeply. We're going to ask hard questions. We're going to challenge you to do something that you may not be prepared for with the particular piece you have in mind. Come in with a strong idea and be ready for a change.
And have a lot of fun with it. We are fun people, so we like to have fun in the audition room and the rehearsal room. And people who are willing to collaborate with us on that level are the best people for this job, hands down.
Absolutely.
We also will ask hard questions in terms of you as a human, at least. For me, the biggest one is why you want to do the tour. So I don't know if you want to talk about.
Absolutely. You're going to come in prepared with 2 monologues. You're going to do at least one of them, and you're going to do at least one of them a couple of times. You may also do the second one. Regardless of whether you do the first or the second, we will still be considering you. So don't take that as a sign that you're necessarily off the radar. Regardless of whether you do one or both, however many times, we will take some time to ask you some questions. The interview process is as important, if not more important, than the audition itself. We want to know about you. We want to know your story. We want to know where you come from. We're going to look at your resume and we're going to respond to some things we see on your resume. But yeah, why you want to do the tour is critical, and I think it's very important that you know how to answer that question. I think that concludes this section of how you prepare for the audition.